So, Pride and Prejudice. For more than 200 years, it hasn't just been sitting on bookshelves, right? It's captured our imaginations, it's spawned tons of movies and shows, and it's created this massive fandom that just keeps going. But why? I mean, what is it about the story of manners, marriage, and mix-ups in old-timey England that still feels so, well, real to us today? That's exactly what we're going to try and figure out together. Okay, so if you've ever thought this book was going to be some stuffy, old-fashioned story, just listen to this. It's sharp, right? It's funny, and it totally captures the biting wit that makes this novel so much more than just a simple love story. This is a peek into the world through Jane Austen's, let's say, very sharp eyes. And, this kind of intense fandom, it's nothing new. I mean, way before we had a word like Austen mania, the connection people felt was just incredibly deep. There's even a story by Rudyard Kipling called The Janeites. It's about a secret club of British soldiers in the trenches of World War I who bonded over their shared love for Austen's books. So yeah, this isn't just some recent trend. It's a full-on cultural legacy. Which, of course, brings us right back to the central question here. How on earth has a novel from way back in 1813 managed to stay so relevant, so loved in our world today? What's the secret sauce? What gives it that staying power? All right, so here's how we're going to tackle this. We'll look at the 200-year-old obsession, then Jane Austen's wild world. We'll dive into the marriage market, the battle of wits between our main characters, rethink what Pride and Prejudice really mean, and finally, why it's such an enduring escape. Let's get into it. Okay, Section 1, a 200-year-old obsession. Let's start by looking at what this fandom is all about. Because it's not just about liking a classic book. For so many people, the connection is way, way more personal than that. So fans often talk about this private, proprietary sense of Jane. It sounds a bit academic, but what it really means is that it's not just about admiring an author from afar. It's this feeling of a super personal connection, almost like Jane Austen is a close friend, someone you could share secrets with. And that intimate bond, that's a huge piece of the puzzle. All right, let's move on. Section 2, Jane Austen's tumultuous world. Now, this is where things get really interesting, because the calm, orderly world she writes about, it's kind of a deliberate illusion. The reality she was living in was anything but calm. I mean, just take a look at this timeline. She's born right as the American Revolution is kicking off. You've got the Reign of Terror in France, Britain goes to war, Napoleon crowns himself emperor. This was an age of massive revolution, constant war, and just total upheaval, a really uncertain time to be alive. And here's what's so amazing. While all this is going on, and her own brothers are out there serving in the Royal Navy fighting Napoleon, what does Austen do? She makes a very deliberate choice. She turns her focus inward. She creates this little self-contained world of country houses and village dances, a world that's governed not by canons and kings, but by conversation and character. It was, in a way, a safe haven that she built with her words. Okay, so now let's zoom in on that carefully built world. Section 3, the marriage market. Because this is the engine that drives the whole plot. And believe me, it was a game with some seriously high stakes. Ah, yes. The opening line. It's probably one of the most famous sentences in all of English literature. But here's the thing, you can't take it at face value. It's not some sweet, romantic idea. This sentence is absolutely dripping with irony. It's a super sharp, almost cynical take on the cold, hard economics of what marriage was all about back then. And there's this one key legal thing that hangs over the entire story, something called the entail. Basically, it was a legal rule that said the Bennet family home and all their money couldn't be passed down to any of the 5 daughters. No, it had to go to a male cousin. So the second their father died, they'd be homeless and broke. This makes finding a husband not just, a romantic dream, it was an urgent financial crisis waiting to happen. So you've got this pressure cooker situation. And that sets the perfect stage for the main event. Section 4, a battle of wits. This is what the story is famous for. And this is where we get the incredible collision at the heart of the novel, the brilliant Elizabeth Bennet versus the oh-so-proud Mr. Darcy. And right from the get-go, they just completely misread each other. She sees him as this arrogant snob, and he can't get past what he sees as her family's embarrassing behavior. She's blinded by her prejudice, and he's blinded by his pride. It's all right there in the title. Really, the whole point of this story is watching these two incredibly smart people being forced to realize how wrong they've been. This quote right here, this is Elizabeth's big aha moment. It's her realizing that the very thing she was so proud of, her ability to judge people, was totally off. She basically says, until this moment, I never knew myself. They both have to get over themselves in their first impressions to see who the other person really is.
But hold on a second. What if Pride and Prejudice aren't just simple bad things? Let's dig a little deeper here. Section 5, Rethinking Pride and Prejudice. Let's look at this from an angle that Austen's first readers would have totally understood.
So let me ask you this. Are Pride and Prejudice always flaws? I mean, today we usually think of them as totally negative things. But what if, back in Austen's day, it was a little more complicated? Okay, check this out. This is where we can kind of flip the script on the whole story. Back then, pride wasn't just being arrogant. It could also mean having a sense of honor, of responsibility that came with your place in the world. And prejudice, it wasn't just about being a bigot. It could also be about protecting traditions, about what was considered right and proper. So for someone like Darcy, his pride is both his biggest flaw and the source of his personal honor. And this wasn't just some fringe idea. The famous philosopher Edmund Burke, who was writing around the same time, basically said the same thing. He talked about just prejudice, making a man's goodness into a habit, making his duty a part of who he is. It's a really different way of looking at it, and it adds this whole other layer to the book. Maybe Elizabeth and Darcy don't just get rid of their pride and prejudice, maybe they just learn how to use them for good. Which brings us full circle, back to our big question. Section 6, an enduring escape. Why do we keep coming back to this story over and over again? When you boil it all down, the magic of this book is just the perfect mix of everything. You've got that incredible wit and irony. You have a romance that feels so earned and satisfying. It's an escape into a world that feels stable, even with all its rules. There's comfort in that formal civility. And on top of all that, you get a heroine who is still so bold and admirable, and a happy ending that actually feels believable, and just really reassuring. It's the whole package. You know, there's this line late in the book, and it almost feels like Jane Austen is winking at us, the readers. It's like she's telling us exactly why she wrote the story. She's created a world whose memory is designed to give us pleasure, a place we can go back to anytime we want, just because it feels good. So, at the end of the day, Pride and Prejudice is so much more than just a great romance. It's this perfectly built world that gives us a break from our own chaotic one. It's a place where being smart and witty actually wins, where love can overcome huge social obstacles, and where a happy future feels, not just possible, but pretty much guaranteed. And so, I'll leave you with this to think about. Jane Austen started her book with a truth universally acknowledged in her world. It really makes you stop and think, doesn't it? In our own crazy, complicated world, what truths do we all universally acknowledge today? What's our opening line?